We know that Renault will be releasing half-year results, and already it's believed that growth will be 21% for the first half of this year, which is a significant improvement from what's happened during the course of the recession. Now, to what extent has South Africa and Africa contributed to better performance?
That's true. Overall, in the world, we've grew by 22%. Let's be clear. I would like to tell you that South Africa has got a big portion, but let's be clear. Even if the turnaround is massive, I think we're growing by 90% after a growth of 70% last year. But the market in Africa is still relatively small. The market worldwide is about 68 million. And Africa, let's look at South Africa, one of the biggest markets. We're only talking about a couple of hundred of thousands. So even if you double your market share, you won't make a big difference. And I'm sorry for that.
All right, but let's talk about that, because I mean, they say that the emerging markets are the new frontier, and I know that Renault is gaining ground in countries like South Korea and Brazil. You're operating in the African environment. There's collectively a middle class of about 169 million Africans whom you could tap into.
Yes, Renault is not the European company like we used to say. I think let's be clear, out of the 20 countries, the biggest country, Renault has grown by 18 of them, first of all. And the third market of Renault is Korea. The sixth one is Brazil. So we can see we're not only a European company, we are actually a worldwide company. That's changing. Let's change mind. Even if we were discussing, Renault is the second brand in Europe, so we are still a big one. Africa definitely is a potential emerging market. And it's the reason why Renault and Nissan together, we invest in South Africa to make cars. It's a big leapfrog for us to invest in a country, especially in the middle of the crisis, when everybody was escaping or leaving perhaps Africa, saying that there's no future. Renault has made the opposite.
Right.
We've been in South Africa to invest and to make cars and to create jobs.
All right. Now, you say that Renault is the second largest brand or leading automaker in Europe, but we know that during the global credit crisis, Renault took a real knock in a way in which German automakers didn't do. What have you done to gain lost ground, and what are you continuing to do?
Basically, the strategy of Renault was growth. I think we've been clearly investing a lot, betting in the future of the emerging market, investing in Africa. One of the biggest factories in the world will be in Morocco, investing in India, investing in a lot of countries in the product range. And the crisis actually knocked Renault when Renault was investing a lot. So when you invest, you're expecting some future revenue. If the crisis is knocking you at the moment of you are actually on the move, you perhaps getting the knock. But let's look now. The market is going back, and Renault is the winner today. In Europe, is the #1 winner, and even in the world, we're getting a lot of market share. So, yes, we've taken a knock, but now the result of the strategy, very extensive, aggressive strategy, is paying fruits.
All right, those investments in the FDI that's brought in through your manufacturing components. I know in 2007, Renault announced that it would start producing its Sandero in South Africa. What do you make of the environment for automotives in South Africa? Because it's a protected industry in many, many ways, and it's been unattractive for many other automakers to come through.
There's a lot, the market, there's a lot of people in this country want to access to the automotive industry. I think the market will increase. It's not going to increase by the top of the market, because people with money will not buy 3, 4, 5 cars. I think, but there's a lot of population want to access the market, and it's the reason with Sandero we made a breakthrough to say that's the car South African people want. And is before, if you remember 2007, South African people were offered a car. I don't want to mention my competitors, but they were cars designed in the 70s, and it was not a car that even sold anywhere in the world but in South Africa. Sandero is a different strategy. We're providing to the African market the same car that the European markets get. We're not making a second-class car. So we're providing the best of Renault for the emerging countries.
All right, let's bring in Lumkile here as our guest host. The manufacturing sector in South Africa took a real knock during the recession. We've seen inventory figures improve, so manufacturing is improving somewhat, but are we producing as much? Because South African exports have dwindled, and in terms of our competitive advantage, we're not very strong.
Well, we're not very strong because we're not getting a lot of the middle class coming through. We've got a population of about 9 million and very small middle class, but through the entry level, we're seeing a lot of competition at the entry level of the auto sector. But more important is that the state has come in to the automotive industry development plan, where we're trying to assist and make sure that in partnership with producers such as Renault, that we're able to sustain the numbers they've got and grow that market whilst adding value and sourcing in domestically, because the auto sector has got huge multipliers from the plastic industry, the metal industry, and even the furniture industry if you're using expensive wood inside the car as a decoration.
All right, we're seeing quite a few industrial development zones being set up for this idea of automotive manufacturing, but Renault's not alone in this space. You've got the Germans who are in the sector, and now you've got the Chinese and the Indians also wanting to capitalize on the pool of labor that exists in Africa. How do you face up to the competition?
I think in whatever the competition you've got winner and loser. I think that's something the point. And you have to try to understand where are the gaps, what is the competitive advantage you can get. And for example, with the Sandero, we invest in a country and we're making this car. We just think that this car is fitting completely the needs, whatever about service, the reliability of the car. The car has been designed in a DNA for this kind of country. And this car, in terms of roominess, is actually matching exactly, fitting exactly when actually the consumer wants. And I think we've been taken by surprise because we couldn't supply the market. Even if the market is low, we've been caught by surprise, and actually a lot of customers were complaining about not getting the car on time.
You used the word there, reliability, and I want to focus on it as the operative word. Some people have said, Renault, French flair, no substance, no efficiency. And I know you went on a charm offensive as Renault with the 110% customer care campaign, but that hasn't really doused the sentiment that beautiful cars, but not very functional cars.
If you ask me, in the turnaround of Renault, if you ask me one thing I haven't fixed or is more difficult to fix as a CEO, I haven't got magic stick just to sort the perception. The only thing I can say is, let's look at the figures, let's test the car right now. In terms of reliability, perhaps we haven't been as focused on reliability when we were in 2004, and some customers have suffered. But let's look at today, and all the study you can find in Europe or even locally, Renault is ranking in the top 3 of quality. Actually, my workshop, all the workshops in the retail are suffering because the Renault car doesn't break down, and I've got my network complaining because there's lack of work in the workshop. That's the reality. Today, I've got 70% less warranty expense than we had 2 years ago. It's the reason why Renault, we've launched in South Africa something that only one competitor's got. We are the leader on warranty. 5 years, every car is sold with 5 years, 150,000. Why? Because we are completely sure of the product. And rather than to talk about, we're providing in the price of the car, the warranty to give the peace of mind. I think that speaks louder than an argument.
Let's just get Lumkile's opinions on this one. I know you drive a British car, but just on this issue of warranties, we also know that Renault, in terms of being competitive, they sell their cars a little bit more cheaply than the others, and that creates the perception that it can't be the greatest car per se. Anecdotally, what do you know about public perceptions and sentiments on Renault, and what could be their strategy to push up the volumes and at the same time douse these perceptions?
Firstly, there's just too many units for me in the industry, but at the low end. There's just too many competitors. I think for us, if we're going to create a very vibrant auto sector at the low end, we need fewer players. I think there's too many players. And in that process, it creates a lot of confusion among consumers, and then rumors and allegations start spreading. So you'll hear people talking about Southeast Asian cars, talking about British or even Swedish cars, but the reality is that the consumer is faced with too much to choose from. As a result, if the program of government around the automotive industry plan is going to work, we need standardization. So then we can push the numbers, can push the volume, then the manufacturers that are key can then get the benefit and the industry can grow.
All right, Xavier, just your inputs finally. Too many players in the low end of the market, and this is the second time he's making this point. High-end Renault vehicles, premium brand Renaults. I know that new products are coming onto the market at the end of the year. Some have already launched. What is Renault offering the consumer that's going to take you out of this low-end mold?
We are actually, again, that's a question of perception. We are not in the low end. We've actually, in 1 year, we are the only brand. We've refreshed completely the range, and we've launched 11 products in 1 year. not one car in the Renault showroom is older than 1 year. That's the reality. So we are trying to offer more commitment to and it's the 110% commitment. That just means more warranty, fresher product, more support. That's what we're getting. We want to be out of the crowd. And the reason why last year, I think as a small company, we've been elected Car Company of the Year in South Africa. It never happened for a small player.
Okay, and fresher products, green is the new black. What are you doing to create environmentally friendly cars?
Renault and Nissan together are doing the major breakthrough. I think is the major offensive. Renault and Nissan have invested 4 billion euros to make zero emission car, not hybrid, zero emission car, electric cars. 4 cars have been already shown, and it's not a concept car. It's not a car in a showroom. It's actually factory are on the way to be built to provide the first time mass production zero emission. And we are claiming to be the leader with Nissan in the zero emission car.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Have you seen the Joule? Have you got any views? I know that they don't like the South African manufactured product.
I've seen the Joule. My point is if you haven't got the footprint at a big industry, even if you got a concept, it's going to be very difficult because the magnitude, the investment just to set up an operation is huge. It's the reason why a small company, even like Volvo, we're talking almost half a million car, got very few chance to survive on their own. So I'm afraid Joule has to find a partnership in the industry.